What's going on, MJ traders and investors? It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Also home to the best MJ community. Today is Tuesday, February 13th. It's Valentine's Day Eve. I hope you're doing well. And in this video, we're going to do an update on MSOS ETF. I'll bring up the chart. We'll do some technical analysis. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on what to expect in the days, weeks, months ahead. Spoiler alert, though, we'll take a look at whether or not the bottom is getting close. And I do think that it's going to be a lot closer than many people think. I think now's the time in the investor psychology cycle where people think we're just going to drop to lower lows and there's never going to be a bull market ever again, right? But as always, this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment and informational purposes only, and you should never, ever buy anything based on anything that I say or anything that I write. Also, full disclosure, I do own MSOS ETF in my MJ portfolio. If you haven't seen that video, you can check out my 2024 update. I give an update on my entire MJ portfolio breakdown with percentages. So we'll discuss whether or not the bottom is getting close. Before we do, make sure to smash the like. It helps support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff, and you'll be notified on any future videos or whenever I go live. Also, to support the channel, you can follow us over on X, which is formerly Twitter. The handle for that is @GroupPow. Going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. It's the best way for me to get real-time updates out to the community. And also, if you're looking to support the channel even further, you can check out powmerch.ca. You can score tons of cool merch on there. I've got over 20 orders so far. I think close to 30 orders now. So I really do love each and every one of you who have supported me along the way. Tons of hats. I've recently added a bunch of hats as well. MSOS hat with the Eagle back and MSO gang. Tons of things on there that you can check out as well. We'll jump into the chart here now. So MSOS, I posted a video not too long ago that for the first time in history, MSOS ETF confirmed a monthly uptrend. A monthly uptrend is higher lows and higher highs, and a downtrend is lower highs and lower lows. So here is an example of a downtrend, right? We have the high, low, lower high, and lower low. And we had a series of lower highs and lower lows in a continued monthly downtrend. Then for the first time in history, we had our low, high of the bounce, higher low, and then higher high. So we're now in a monthly uptrend. But something to be aware of is when we confirm a monthly uptrend and you hit a level like $10 psychological, that you need to be cautious, especially if you zoom into the weekly time frame and you see that on the weekly time frame we had no support all the way down to $5.99. You can see here this pivot point from the low there at $4.92. We had our low, high of the bounce, higher low at $5.99, and then once we broke the high here at $7.69, we were in a weekly uptrend, a daily uptrend, and a monthly uptrend. Well, the monthly uptrend followed shortly thereafter, the weekly uptrend confirmed. But at the moment, we're still in a weekly uptrend. We're still in a monthly uptrend. But the scenario would have been completely different if we would have confirmed a monthly uptrend and broke above $10 psychological resistance with nearby like weekly support. So let's say, for example, it had been 8 weeks in a row where we had a higher low every single candle. And this week being the 8th week, we finally lost the low of last week, meaning consolidation, right? And it's just healthy. So from that, even if you just went short on a loss of 955, the low of last week, that would have been a short opportunity of about 11%, just over. So again, we're still in a weekly uptrend, but the scenario would have been completely different. Let's say 2 weeks ago on this candle here, before we confirmed a monthly uptrend, let's say we pulled back on this candle, we pulled back to, EMA 12 or EMA 26, somewhere around that 750 area, and we formed a nice higher low and weekly support level, then broke $10 psychological, then confirmed the monthly uptrend, that would have been way different. But when we had 8 weeks, 2 months in a row without any weekly consolidation and no nearby support, once we started weekly consolidation from the high there, we could have pulled back 44% thereabouts and still be in a weekly uptrend, right? So when we run from $5.99 all the way up to $10.64, when we run almost 80% with no weekly support nearby, you need to expect a 10 to 20% pullback. And if we get one, you shouldn't be confused as to why there is one, right? Because we just ran 80% with no support nearby. And then let's take a look. How much have we pulled back now? 20%, right? And we could still pull back another, we might even pull back 30% from this local high here. So again, no major red flags whatsoever. From the current low of today, we could still pull back another 30% and still be in a weekly uptrend. Right, and then the S&P 500 gave us some clues, so that had a little bit of cracks in its armor as well. It hit a very strong psychological support, resistance level as well. It was that 500 level on the S&P 500 on SPY ETF, right? So once we get above 500, I mentioned this on my private live stream for members on Friday that I made public. Normally I do those for private members, but I made it public because there was a lot of updates in there that I wanted to share with the public community as well, because the S&P 500 was getting over 500 psychological. We hadn't consolidated on the weekly time frame now in 6 weeks on the S&P 500. And today we gapped down. And then on yesterday, we closed near the low. We had a bearish candle with an upper wick. And then once we lost the low there, and I said, it's time to be cautious because we're over 500 psychological. We had no daily support all the way down to 482.86 on the S&P 500. And we're still in a daily uptrend on the S&P 500 as well. As long as 482.86 holds, we're still in a daily uptrend. Unless we come down here and we form a lower high and a lower low and confirm a daily downtrend. That would be a different scenario at play. But at the moment, we still haven't even started weekly consolidation on the S&P 500, meaning we could still see more sell pressure on other individual sectors like the MJ sector, right? So key support on SPY into tomorrow is going to be last week's low at 490.23. Today we hit 490.72. So if we lose 490.23, then that marks weekly consolidation on the S&P 500. It'll just be healthy, and we could potentially expect to pull back to around EMA 12 there, around 478. So again, we also had some clues, right? We had AYR, so Air Wellness, AYR, WF. One of the more stronger names, so it's been a lead bull, technically speaking. Off the low here at 57 cents, the high we were up over 600%. We confirmed it was one of the first names to confirm monthly uptrends, and then if you go to the community tab here on the YouTube channel, I actually posted current MJ monthly uptrends. This was 7 days ago. Cureleaf, AYR, Green Thumb, TrueLeaf, MSOS, IIPR, Verano, TerraSend, C21, Grown Rogue, and Nova MJ. Nova MJ being the only one in Canada. And that's not really a surprise because we know that rescheduling and uplisting through safer banking and all that's really going to benefit the US MSOs. But a headline on the DEA approving Schedule 3, that's going to send everything skyrocketing, right? Even your Tilrays, your Canopies, your SNDLs, your high tides, because they're on the US major exchanges. So, the fact that AYR was one of the names in a monthly uptrend, and then we started weekly consolidation here. AYR was something similar. It was on the 7th week where we started weekly consolidation. So it wasn't surprising to see, especially after this bearish reversal candle here a few weeks ago. And then this is week 2. This is the second week in a row where we've seen weekly consolidation on AYR. So last week, we had a little bit of a clue that, one of the stronger names in the space was starting weekly consolidation after a massive bearish reversal candle here. This could potentially be a temporary top, and this could mark weekly consolidation across the sector. And then if you look at the Canadian names, tons of Canadian names are seeing weekly consolidation as well. For example, you can just bring up Tilray. Tilray was losing its low. We had SNDL as well. Weekly consolidation. High Tide, weekly consolidation. And then Cureleaf this week started losing the low of last week, so weekly consolidation there. We had Green Thumb, TrueLeaf, and then ultimately ended up being the same for MSOS, which tracks all the US producers, right? So we had all these signals and all these clues, key support levels to be watching on the S&P 500. On MSOS, once we lost 955, we were expecting a pretty big pullback, right? Like I said, around 11%, just if you entered on a short of that, or you could have just looked to reload cheaper as well, right? But if you're somebody who's wondering where the bottom is, and if you're somebody that's looking to potentially add to your position, when is a good time to start adding to that position? Again, not financial advice, but you may want to look for potential daily oversold territory, which we're about halfway there. So we're a little over halfway there to daily oversold. Anything around 30 and below is considered daily oversold, and we're currently at 46. We could still see an EMA 12 and 26 bear cross, and we did confirm a daily downtrend as well with a lower high, lower low. So we could see downside continuation with an EMA 12 and 26 bear cross. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. And then we saw a loss of 490.23 on the S&P 500, which would mark weekly consolidation, which would be headwinds for MSOS in the MJ space, right? And then on the weekly time frame, we were looking at a potential weekly bull flag, but once we lost the 0.382 fib level there at 887, that decreased the odds of a weekly bull flag. And now I would expect to pull back to somewhere around that 618 level, the golden pocket, to the 0.786. And that would put us somewhere around that $7 to $7.75 area. That should be a nice area to start targeting for a bottom. But if you're looking for, levels to start scaling in, I think, if you're somebody who's a little bit more aggressive, maybe you want to start scaling in at daily oversold territory. The last time we were daily oversold was way back here at 492. And I've been saying for a while now, many, many months, that if you buy MSOS near $5, you win. And anything under $5 is a screaming buy, right? Like back up the truck buy. And I'm not telling you to buy, sell, or hold. I'm just saying what I was doing. So, we'll give you a couple of examples here. 505, we ran to 637, so about 26% of upside. Okay, you missed that opportunity. Here we had a flush below $5, 478. Then we went to 988. over 100% of upside. Okay, well, that was just a fluke, right? No, there's nothing to that at all. Okay, well, we got back down to 492, again, below $5, and then we went up another 56%. Then 599, all the way up to 1064-ish, so about 76% of upside from there, right? So we have our higher lows, and for the first time in history, we confirmed a monthly uptrend. Then we were in a weekly uptrend here once we had their low, high, higher low at 599, and then once we broke 769, we were in a weekly uptrend, daily uptrend. Then once we broke 988 here, we were in a monthly uptrend. So that's what we want to see, daily, weekly, monthly uptrends across the sector, and especially on a name like MSOS, which is an ETF that tracks all the major producers in the US, right? This is a good indication that the bottom is likely in, the long-term bear market bottom is likely in, and we're probably starting a new multi-year bull market where we could potentially be going to 52-week and all-time highs. Doesn't mean we're going to get there next month, or even over the next few months. Could be years before we get to all-time highs or 52-week highs, right? But at the moment, we could still pull back, like I said, another 30% and still be in a weekly uptrend, right? So at this point, look for potential daily oversold territory. If we take a look at the 10-week moving average, we have that at 823. We did have a bear cross of the stochastic as well, which is again adding more confluence to the fact that weekly consolidation was more than likely imminent. And then sure enough, this week is what we got. And I mentioned on my live stream that I posted on Friday for Power Group private members that I made public that we could potentially see it this week. That's what I was looking for. And then again, if you're looking for a bottom on MSOS ETF, there's a lot of confluence around that 650 area. That's our 50 weekly moving average there at 655. And then the 200-day moving average is at 661. So I think the $5, kind of go over to what I was talking about earlier, that, you're like, oh, maybe I'll be able to add it $5 or below again. Like you said, it's a buy around $5 and a screaming buy below $5. Maybe I'll get that opportunity again. I wouldn't hold my breath, because we're seeing higher lows and higher highs. We're now in daily, weekly, and we're no longer in a daily uptrend, but we're in weekly and monthly uptrends. So that's a very different market dynamic now. So I would think that we're probably going to form a long-term a temporary bottom. I think our long-term bottoms are in, and then I think we're going to form a temporary bottom here somewhere around that $7.50 to $6 area. I think is a nice area to target for a bottom. And like I said, it lines up with the 50 weekly there at 655 and the 200-day moving average at 661. I don't think we're going to get to $5 or below. I think that we're going to more than likely get a rescheduling decision at some point to Schedule 3. There was some news out today that rescheduling to Schedule 3 would not violate international treaties. So I think that's the most likely scenario. Descheduling, I don't think, is the most likely scenario. I think we'll end up there, but I think ultimately they'll take an incremental approach, and that would violate international treaties, in my opinion, as far as I'm aware. So I think Schedule 3 is the most likely scenario, and I think it's going to happen. I've been saying, the charts, the tea leaves, looking like the charts are saying explosion time somewhere around, April, May. So I think it's going to come at some point next month. If not, I'd probably be saying April. And then we have Florida on the ballot. We have Pennsylvania. We have safer banking. We have Germany coming online around April. So all the signs are pointing to an explosion around April, May. And still yet to see a lot of uptrends confirm on a lot of the Canadian names. So once we see uptrends, which I think could happen over the next 2 to 3 months on the Canadian names, that's going to be all systems go, right? So like I said, if you're looking for a potential bottom, obviously I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't think it's going to be $5 this time. I don't think it's going to be under $5. I think that ship has sailed. I think if you can get this somewhere around $6.50 to $6, you're doing very, very well for the long term. But let me know your thoughts and opinions, where you think the bottom is going to be on MSOS ETF. If this video was helpful, please let me know in the comment section below. If you want me to cover other stocks, do charting and some technical analysis on some other MJ names, let me know which ones. Always here to help, and basically try to cover the names that people want to see coverage on the most. And share the video with your network as well if anybody can benefit from this as well. So it's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth, and we shall see you again on the next video. Happy Valentine's Day to you and yours.